we find a wonderful example of the changing perspectives through life in the very brief story by Kafka called The Next Village, written between 1917 and 1923. On the one hand, it means Kafka was somewhere in his mid-30s, in fact a young and still unmarried man, but on the other hand, it was written by a very old man near his death at the all too young age of 41. This is Kafka's story. My grandfather used to say, life is astoundingly short. To me, looking back over it, life seems so foreshortened that I scarcely understand, for instance, how a young man can decide to ride over to the next village without being afraid that, not to mention accidents, even the span of a normal, happy life may fall far short of the time needed for such a journey. End of story. We here see the change through lifespan as youth turns into old age. The young who sets out for the next village is not the same person as the old man who looks back over the lifespan and recalls. One gets up on the horse to traverse the lands and the continents to finally arrive at the next village. That's the young one. The other one is stepping down from his horse after all the travels and in recollection realizes the brevity of life. The young man departs on his journey of life to the next village, to another world. Who knows what comes next? What lies ahead of the young man or woman? What rivers they cross? What adventures and experiences lie in wait to be discovered and realized on that long and often unknown way through life? The old man's perspective is the very opposite. He or she looks back over the span of life, and in recollection, it all becomes so short, so brief. In my memory, it all fits into the tiny space of my mind, which is, of course, simultaneously even wider than all the places the old person ever traveled in the outer world. And all the years of one's life may fit into a single moment of one's memory. The essence of the two perspectives, the one is the living experience in itself, the other is the knowledge, the awareness, and the consciousness of one's living experience. The latter one is what Sophocles refers to when he says that the unexamined life is not worth living. And when Jung speaks about the conscious life, he refers to the two ways of experiencing together. I believe, as do many others, that the midlife crisis and transition pertain to the search for meaning at a time when what used to be evident is no longer so evident. When the credits we may have been fortunate enough to receive at the beginning of our lives have been used up and we need to search for new ways. Maybe it pertains to my own wishful thinking, but I believe that now, when the average life length has considerably increased and many are fortunate enough to be fully capable of living a productive life after 60 without a need to confine themselves to the golden cage of old age homes, we may experience a transition not so much into merely the adjustment of the decreasing ego capabilities of old age. In the past, old age was honored, but then, as of late, the wisdom of old age has been swiftly pushed aside, let to decay in the seclusion of infantile playing grounds. I believe that the transition into early old age provides a possible stage of productive creativity, of the freedom to raise one's voice, of finding a dynamic balance between ego and self, in which none defeats the other, in which the ego need not be defeated by the self, yet enabling the self to rise from the shadow, an age in which honoring one's fate means shaping one's destiny. And since I see this as an archetypal age rather than a chronological stage, some fortunate ones may perhaps attain this at any time in their life, while others perhaps don't. So let me conclude by saying that in the cycle of life, I try to review the confluence of fate and destiny. Fate, the predetermined features as spoken by the gods, as determined by our genes, constitution, the unalterable course of our life's river. And destiny, the way we travel along the river of our life, how conscious choice and the unexpected turns of the tide cross each other's paths along the river of life, the river which, as Rabindranath Tagore said, would never reach the sea were it not hemmed in by its banks. In Benjamin Schiff's painting, Life, on the cover of The Cycle of Life, I do feel that they come together in a subtle balance between lyric harmony and pensive concern. The candle's soft light of life is poised against the painful inevitability of burning out. Yet, as long as they burn, there are shades and colors. There are the distinct faces of transient existence, and there are those of obscurity, hidden in distant nature. There is a lyrical melancholy, as well as a tense harmony, reflecting to me an essence of being alive, of a life fully lived. And as Robert Frost says, that makes all the difference. The difference between the depression of burnout because the candle's fire was not lit versus the pain of loss and the sadness of a fire of a full life that has burned out because it has arrived at its natural end, its final destination. And so, what may lie ahead of us may just be a giant dream.